In the ongoing study of the Gospel of Matthew, we find ourselves at Matthew chapter 13 and verses 22 to 23. I'm going to be reading from Norley's translation and New Testament in modern English. Matthew 13 and beginning at verse 22. Then as to what was sown among the thorns, that is like the one who listens to the word, but the worries of this life and the love of money choke its message, and it yields nothing. And lastly, what was sown in good ground stands for those who listen to the word and understand it, and consequently bear fruit, some as much as 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. We have in this passage what happens to the third and fourth seed. We can talk of these by saying that the issue of living out the faith is not always about the faith as such. And bear with me for a moment on this point. The challenge to be a faith is how to take the reality of that faith and live it in everyday life. The Christian faith can be presented as a great battle to be moral in a world of wickedness and immorality and vice and degradation. The real challenge of the faith is not there. No, it's keeping the faith relevant. Note here, I'm not talking of someone outside the faith. I am talking of those who are of faith, or we might say in the church. How do we stoke our faith going forward? Well, we have to keep our faith relevant. If our faith ceases to be relevant, we will not have faith. If you have a job, a family, a house to keep up, and other basic life duties, life from week to week can keep you busy. How do you in all of this create time for prayer and reflection on the scriptures? You see, we go from week to week, and there will be all sorts of things that will demand our attention and our time. How do we in this keep our faith relevant? The activities of faith can be just another set of demands on our life in any given day or any given week. A general rule of thumb is that the activities we do week to week are the ones that are relevant to us. In other words, what we're saying is just a simple observation of life. If we don't find an activity particularly relevant to us, we soon drop it. Think of how many people in a New Year's resolution commit to going to a gym and how quickly that falls off. Why? Because it's not particularly relevant to them. If you approach prayer and scriptural reflection as another obligation, what will happen? You will over time will drop it from your life if it does not take on a place of relevancy and importance. If you want times of prayer and scriptural reflections to be relevant, you know what? You're going to have to work at it. For at first, it will not be. The third seed is that seed that fell among the thorns. Jesus says this is where a person for a time lived out the faith. In time, though, the worries of life and the pursuit of wealth caused the person to lose faith. What are the worries of life? It is not an exact match, but I think in modern terms, we would say the grind of everyday life. There is a job to do, a house to clean, a child to prepare for school, bills to pay, a car to take to the mechanic, an appointment to set up with the dentist, and so on and so forth. These are the things that are relevant. I can deal with life after death when this stage of life is over. I do not have the time to give to the church, the time to give to prayer, or the time to read the scripture. Most of us will not fail morally due to some flagrant sin. We simply will be consumed by the task of everyday life, and the activities of faith get squeezed out. The fourth seed is the only seed of the four that flourishes. To make Christ the center of our lives will take effort. It will not just happen. In our 20s and 30s, we often have a number of obligations that demand our time and attention. Our lives tend to be very busy, and when you're a young adult, you live life very busy. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily important. And that stage of life, it takes effort to build the faith in as an integral part of our life. In our 40s and 50s, the nature of obligations shift. Often it's about family and the demands of work and career. If we don't work at it, our faith again can be pushed aside and squeezed out of life. But you know what? If you have built the faith into your life as a young adult, as you move into your 40s and 50s, it is there and it can continue to grow and build into your life. Yes, we are busy, but not that busy for God. The 60s and beyond can bring retirement, and obligations and responsibilities often lessen. And in this stage of life, our faith and our relationship with Christ can flourish. But notice, it will only happen as we have, over the prior decades, built it in as the center of who and what we are. The exercises of faith no longer have the competition with other demands. It is not that easy. It is that it has become who and what you are. You see, this is how, by faith, we will overcome this world.